Hey, what's going on, guys? It's ACPL, and in today's video, I wanted to talk about everyone's favorite eldritch entity, Xau-tak. If you don't know who already, Xau-tak is one of the biggest mysteries in RuneScape's lore. He is this ominous force from an entirely different universe that apparently wants everything to die. So let's talk about him. For this video, I wanted to focus on one thing, and that is, what exactly is Xau-tak? And to answer that, I have a few theories. The first theory is that Xau-tak, Voss, and the other Lords of Erebus are simply that universe's version of Elder Gods. Because let me remind you, Erebus is a completely different universe from our own universe. This is why things such as Shadow Anima is toxic and how it's hard to traverse Erebus is because it's a different universe. With that being said, I think it would be safe to assume that each universe has its own set of Elder Gods, given the fact that the Elder Gods created, or rather shaped, our own universe. And to elaborate on this idea further, the Elder Gods each possess or represent some kind of element or concept in the universe. You know, for example, you got Jazz being sand, air, progression, Full being fire, constancy, Wen being ice and inversion, and Bik being earth and alteration. In this instance, I believe Xau-tak does represent two concepts and elements. He might actually represent a few more than these, but he for sure represents these two, which are bones and death. Bones and death are things that are integral to Xau-tak's character, of course, right? Like we got the skeletal horror, hordes of corpses, and of course he wants everything to seemingly die. And as we look and compare that with the Elder Gods represent natural elements and concepts. Air and time, fire and constancy, ice and inversion, and earth and alteration. Whereas bones and death, they are natural, but in the sense of elements, it is completely unnatural. Because now we are dealing with concepts relating to life, living beings. And if you recall, the Elder Gods don't care about living beings. Life is just a byproduct of them creating the universe. So it's interesting to see how much interest Xau-tak and the other Lords of Erebus have towards life. Now this ties into my second theory. So we've talked about how Xau-tak could be Erebus's version of an Elder God who represents bones and death, right? But now what if we went even further than that? What if Xau-tak was actually manifested into existence as a representation of bones and death? You might be thinking to yourself, now hold on AC, this sounds kinda lame, so you're saying Xau-tak is just a figment of my imagination? And I would say, yeah, kinda. To make sense of that, we can look at other media such as Berserk, Warhammer 40k, and even in RuneScape itself. Starting off with Berserk. In Berserk, there is a primal entity known as the Idea of Evil, and essentially the Idea of Evil is humanity's collective unconsciousness made manifest. It exists solely because of people. It is the reasons for pain, reasons for sadness, for life, for death, reasons why people's lives were filled with suffering. You know, it was born out of humanity's longing for reasons regarding our existence. And it's a concept that was so powerful and so prevalent that it was manifested into existence. Likewise, in Warhammer 40k, there are the Chaos Gods. Warhammer 40k is a brutal universe, and throughout the brutality, gods are brought into existence. Khorne, for example, is the god of blood, rage, and skulls because there is a lot of fighting in the universe. However, the most well-known example is probably Slaanesh, which is the god of pleasure, excess, and decadence. Slaanesh is the most well-documented because they were the most recent to come into existence. There used to be this ancient species known as the Eldar, and they were so advanced that they conquered the entire galaxy. And because they conquered everything, there was nothing really left for them to do, which made them bored. And because of this, the Eldar started doing a bunch of crazy shit just to feel something. Think like smoking crack, eating an entire buffet of food, lots of sex, lots of murder. And because the Eldar's need for pleasure was so intense, Slaanesh was brought into existence. Now these are two examples of this trope in media where a god was born from the will of the people. Now could this actually happen in RuneScape? And yes, we actually have quite a bit of examples in the game as well, thanks to Necromancy. In Necromancy, you can summon ghosts, zombies, and skeletons. These used to all be people, one-to-one matches, but then you have things such as phantoms and spirits, which are completely different. I actually asked one of the J-mods about this, I forgot which one, but I'm sorry. But spirits and phantoms are essentially concepts, ideas, and emotions that are manifested into reality. There are dozens of examples of these in-game, but I'll briefly talk about 3 of them. The first one is Hermod, the Spirit of War. Hermod was not an actual living person, but was instead born out of the unending conflicts of the God Wars. You know, the God Wars apparently lasted tens of thousands of years, and he is a spirit of those wars and conflicts. The second being the Spirit of Accomplishment, the NPC you get the 99 Necromancy cape from. Again, this is not and never was a living person, but rather, you know, the feeling of when you got your first 99. It felt pretty good. You felt accomplished, and that is what the Spirit of Accomplishment is. It's that feeling that so many people have when mastering a skill. And lastly, the third and most interesting and important one being Vengeance. In the Fremennik saga, also called Vengeance, there is a forgotten warrior named Kayla. Her group was killed by adventurers to which she vowed vengeance on them. She goes on this hunting spree, tracking them down, killing them. However, in the end, Kayla was dying from poison, but she was filled with so much hatred and an extreme desire for vengeance that in her dying moments, it actually manifested into reality. Kayla the person ends up dying while her extreme desire for vengeance lives on. And this is confirmed. We see Kayla's ghost in the city of whereas Vengeance is seen in quests later on. It's also to note that Vengeance is actually fairly powerful. You'd assume at looking at her, she'd be weak, but no, because she's a manifestation, she's actually pretty strong capably. So from looking at all these things, it is very possible that Xau-tak is an elder god from Erebus, that is the concept of bones and death which was manifested into reality. This warrants further discussions such as why or how could this have happened? What in Erebus would warrant the creation of Xau-tak? I'm just gonna throw it out there, but maybe there must have been some kind of large mass death event that had occurred to create him, like what happened with the Eldar and Slaanesh. Or maybe it's like the Big Crunch, where it's the end of the universe and everything is collapsing in on itself, but instead of some super hot dense space, you get Xau-tak and Voss and the other Lords of Erebus. Or maybe it's, you know, completely natural and that's just how it is. Or maybe I'm completely wrong and it's something other crazy thing that happened. I don't know guys, it's all very interesting, but anyways, those were my thoughts on theorizing and trying to better understand what exactly Xau-tak is. Let me know what you think, if you agree, disagree, or if you have any other thoughts of your own, I'd love to hear them. Anyways, my name is ACPL and I'll be catching you guys in the next video. Peace.